with regards to what has recently happened in Israel, what
Yeah.
is one misconception about the Israeli conflict and one that is not realized outside of the state of Israel?
Um, so basically the I guess the misconception that I would define, then I'll go into a little bit as well, is that this war is like standalone. People talk about Hamas and Gaza and like Palestinians and what Arabs, whatever, as if this is a standalone event that happened and came out of nowhere or comes from this very clear um, relationship of oppressor and oppressed, and not understanding or being aware of Jewish history whatsoever. And I'll say that in two parts. Like, one, Jewish history of like the Jewish history and connection to the land of Israel. I mean, think about it. You just mentioned Passover. So on Passover, we basically are saying at the end of the Seder, L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim, the next year in Jerusalem. Like, our whole narrative and basic story is that God gave us the chosen land, and that is Israel. And we have archaeological proof of that. So that's one side of that. And then the other side is just that when we are talking about like the return of the Jewish people and the beginning of Zionism that started from the late 1800s, there is interaction of Israeli Arabs / Palestinians and Israelis or Jewish people. We only became Israeli in 1948 officially. So before that, the Jewish people who were in Palestine, the land of Israel, British Mandate of Palestine. And there were multiple agreements that were done between the British Mandate of Palestine, the UN, the people who were head of these like Israeli Arabs, and the People's Council, that was the Jewish people who were in charge of the Jewish people during the British Mandate of Palestine. So there are multiple agreements, and I think like 1947, 1949. I think the most one that's actually very relevant and recent is the one from 2000, where the Palestinians were offered 97% of the West Bank to create a state. And if you take that into account, and just realize that time and time again they've refused that, and that we really kind of don't have a partner in peace. And then learn about this context of just the horrible massacre that occurred on October 7th, and the fact that that IDF in Israel left Gaza in 2005, and it has been independent since then. It's just like there's so much more than what meets the eye. It's just like this misconception of we're judging according to what's happened right now, and it's like very using these big terms and words, and it's just, I wish that people cared about history more, learned it more, realize that there's a deep story, and it's not black and white, it's very, very gray. I mean, well, I think it's black and white, but whatever. I think it's obvious, but I'm also like very much involved in the conflict itself, and I'm very much aware of that because I live in Israel and I've lived here for over almost 20 years. But I just think that there's so much more that people need to be aware of and say and learn. And then there's horrible damage that's being done and affecting people because of that. So if it's a message I could share with people that people will hear to educate themselves, as a Jewish educator myself, then I've succeeded in my mission. But that's like something that I can, something that I feel regarding just the misconception about the conflict.
Right. It's like there's almost just so much history, and it's almost so gray that it's like too difficult to portray on the news in a great fashion because that won't like benefit. It's like it's easier to share a story that's black or white.
And it's
Yeah.
it's easier to digest the story that's black and white. No one,
Yeah.
how many people really want to think and understand the history behind global conflicts today? So it's so much easier just to paint one side as a perpetrator and the other side as the perpetrated, as the oppressed, and
Yeah.
Right.
just
And
the
like
consequences have been
we've
so
been going to a
severe.
Jewish school, and like I've been like researching and like trying to understand this conflict for like over 2 years, and I still don't really fully grasp the full concept of it. And like just goes to show like how difficult understanding something like that is, because like on one end, like there is a battle of morality when you consider both sides, but also like the amount of literal and objective history you need to know in order to like kind of have a perspective on it is insane.
Yeah. And you have people who have massive power online who just, post a story or share or, you know, present something and it's completely like misinformation and lies, and it does a lot of damage. So I mean, what is the solution? I mean, yeah, I wish people had 2 years to learn and read and whatnot, but also I think the solution is like, shut up if you don't know. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to be very blunt, but like, I don't speak about particular conflicts that I don't know about because I don't know about them, and it's not, in a way, it's not my place. Because like I have my best friend, her husband is from Ukraine, and the Ukrainian Russian conflict has been going on for quite a while, and I listen and I want to learn, but I'm not going to post or comment about it because I'm not like involved in it myself.
Right.
But I want to learn, so I think that there's an important piece here of I want to learn and be involved, and also just like, if you don't know, then don't share, because you might be doing more harm and damage than good.
Right, right. And involving yourself in that way isn't even benefiting yourself because then you're just choosing one side and you can't listen to the full concept itself or the
Despite not
full.
knowing anything at all. You're just really, if you're at that stage where you don't know anything of the conflict and you're just choosing a side based on popular opinion, it's the most idiotic thing you could do. Yeah, like you said, you're shutting yourself off and you don't even know why you're shutting yourself off.
Yeah.
I think the biggest example for that, I mean, maybe I'm wrong and they do know, but like the Oscar pins, the that was
Oh,
calling for
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
ceasefire, and those pins were like from the one of the most horrible things that happened during the Intifada, where two men went into a Palestinian village by mistake and were completely like literally torn apart. And then like the person had blood on his
Yeah,
hands, and
yeah,
that was the pin. And so like my hope is that they did not know what it represented. But at the same time, the fact that they were doing it and calling out was huge, and it had a huge effect and a negative effect from my point of view. So yeah.
right. Yeah.